one thing I really wanted to talk about is pet insurance. So,
It's like if they die, you get money?
correct. Yeah.
Really?
No. I mean, look, you can buy insurance for just about anything on planet Earth, but probably not pet life insurance. That's not what I was referring to. No, I'm definitely referring to
A driver's policy?
Yeah. Yeah, driver's. I mean, a dog with his little paws on the wheel is pretty cute, you gotta admit.
Welcome to Pennies and Popcorn, the show about real money lessons from the world of TV and movies.
With your hosts, Carla Cash and Robert Davidson, a couple of personal finance geeks and movie lovers. Hey guys, welcome to our second episode of our September Back to School series that we are doing. This time we are taking it back a little farther in time than we did last week. We are going back to Billy Madison.
That's right, we're literally going back to school.
Yeah. I was definitely in school in 1995. That's when this movie came out, right?
I believe so.
So yeah, I think I was in the 5th grade at the time, which hopefully I didn't watch this movie at that young of an age because, man, there's some raunchy stuff in here.
This movie stars first graders, Carla. There are many scenes involving third graders. Surely it's child appropriate.
Right. So how did you feel about this movie? Did you enjoy rewatching it after all these years?
So it had been a very, very long time since I had seen Billy Madison. And I have to say, the critics maybe got it right. I think Siskel and Ebert gave it thumbs down.
Yeah, it was pretty panned by the critics.
Yeah, and now, I don't get it. Maybe I'm just too old and stuffy, but that version of Adam Sandler humor just doesn't do it for me. And it's funny because Happy Gilmore was like a year later, and I think I still like that one. Maybe I need to watch it again. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, Adam Sandler's humor is very specific, and I do think it caters to a younger audience. We are now in our late 30s, and it just does not hit the same nerve that it did when I was a kid watching this movie. Yeah, he just comes across as super annoying. I kind of just want to smack him and say, stop acting like an idiot for, I would say about 80% of the film.
It's okay for him to be goofy and, lighthearted and whatever, but I don't know, he speaks gibberish at multiple points that doesn't make any sense. Like his whole attitude about life seems so absurd. The character is just, I suppose it's supposed to be a bit of a parody of a rich kid and taking it to an extreme, but I just can't imagine any real human in society that has any relationships with anybody, parents, friends, whatever. Like it's too phony. It's too outrageous to be believable, and it just sours things for me.
Yeah, so I read that Adam Sandler was quoted as saying, "Billy is the closest I've come to playing myself," which is just flat alarming. I mean, I'm sure Adam Sandler is pretty goofy in real life, but I hope that he doesn't take it to quite the level that the character of Billy Madison does because, yeah, like the whole speaking gibberish thing, I had completely forgotten about that, but it's literally like blah, 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 flip, flop, flip, flop. Like it's just, that's what he does. He just makes these random noises. And he does it for a long time, right? It's not like it just lasts for a second or two. It goes on and on.
It's not like he was mocking someone. It was him just, that's the way he decided to communicate.
Yeah, well, I think he, presumably thought it was funny, but it did not hit that vein for me.
No. The other reason why I have to agree with the critics that this wasn't so good is for a movie about school, they messed up something very near and dear to my heart.
Go on a math rant, it's okay.
In Miss Vaughn's third grade classroom on the chalkboard, there's a brief scene where the camera pans across and you can see written on the chalkboard, prime numbers is the wording. And then beneath that you have 1, 3, 5, 7, 11. Excuse me. Was anybody watching the quality of this film? 1, not a prime number. Where is 2?
2 is also a prime number.
2 is the smallest prime number out there. Like, I'm not expecting them to have an exhaustive list of prime numbers under 100 or something, but like, don't put something wrong and don't leave out like the lowest one. If you're making an ordered list from smallest to largest for some set of numbers, it's inexcusable. Someone should be fired, if not worse.
Yeah, I think that it's a serious offense and we should take it seriously.
Agreed. Okay. On a more fun note, did you know that Eric, the villain of the movie, who's played by Bradley Whitford, you might know him from The West Wing.
Or The Handmaid's Tale more recently.
Exactly. I think he did a good job in the role. Adam Sandler apparently originally wrote this for Bob Odenkirk, the guy who plays Saul Goodman from Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. The studio said, you can't just make this movie with all your friends. It's not cool. We're going to have real auditions and figure out who this is going to be. Philip Seymour Hoffman auditioned for the part, and Adam Sandler really liked his tape and wanted him to get the role, and then Philip Seymour Hoffman backed down. So,
I think because he just didn't like the script that much.
Yeah, because it's dumb as all hell.
Yeah, I think he probably was demonstrating his good taste there. Yeah, Philip Seymour Hoffman was never in a movie as bad as this.
I mean, I'm just trying to picture him in the role. I mean, he was such a fantastic actor in so many different genres, but
yeah,
I think this would have been an interesting role for him for sure.
Definitely would have been a low point. So good call on that. We miss you, buddy. Wish you were still around. But yeah, good call. If you haven't seen this movie since 1995 or thereabouts, the plot is pretty simple. You've got Adam Sandler playing the character of Billy Madison. He is 27 years old, both in real life at the time of filming and his character's age in the film. And he is just kind of a screw up in life. He is the son of a very wealthy hotel mogul, a guy named Madison, and he has just not done anything at all with his life. The only thing we see him doing is lounging about the pool, drinking a lot, and chasing penguins that don't actually exist. So he really just hasn't done anything at all with his 27 years on Earth, so far as we can tell. And his dad is kind of nearing retirement age, and he wants to pass on the company to somebody. He'd hoped to give it to his son, but he just can't in good conscience do that with Billy being Billy. And the movie is about Billy trying to convince his father that he can go back to school and prove himself that he is worthy to take on the Madison Hotel Company.
Yeah, that's about it. We get to see the trials and tribulations of a 27-year-old going through 12 years of schooling in 24 weeks. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, he's going to get it done pretty darn quickly. It comes out to about 6 months. And yeah, that's a lot of schooling to squeeze into a 6-month period. But presumably, I feel like he should have spent a lot less time in the earlier grades, right? Does he really need to spend 2 full weeks in the first grade?
It seemed pretty clear that he could read. Maybe there'd be a test he could take now to demonstrate he has mastered that knowledge and then work a little harder to get through the high school stuff. But I don't know. Make sure he has more of a high school foundation if he really wants to have a useful set of skills to demonstrate his ability to lead this chain. But
well, we weren't around. We didn't get to make the rules. But that's the plot in a nutshell. And there's a lot of really great money content in this film that we're going to dig into. Surprisingly, a super insightful rant about dog ownership, which is going to be fun to dig into. But I think we can go ahead and start our first clip where we hear Billy's dad talking to some of his other business associates about whether he can hand the company off to Billy, whether he's got what it takes.
Billy is not an idiot.
Well, I'm not saying he's an idiot. I just think he might not be mature enough to run a Fortune 500 company.
My late wife, Emily, and I started this company with a 15-unit motel in Patchogue, Long Island. We built it into 650 hotels. Our dream was to one day turn it over to our only son, Billy.
Carl, how many people work for Madison?
61,000 and change.
Now, how long are those people going to have jobs once Billy has the hotel operator speaking gibberish?
Yeah, and he means literal gibberish there, as we have already pointed out. So I think the topic that this raises for non-fantasy land, for those of us who live here on planet Earth, is succession planning, right? So many people own their own businesses. This is a difficult thing that they face. Maybe they don't want to shut their company down. Maybe it's just gotten really big and successful and it would be terrible to shut it down. 61,000 employees, I mean, that's a lot of folks. So it would be lovely to keep this company going long after the founder is gone. But how do you find the right person to step into that very big role. So what are your thoughts on succession planning and how is the best way to go about it?
Well, I think it starts early, right? If you're the CEO of a company this size, I think this is more hotels than most of the big brand name hotel chains would have had at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just in 6 months find a successor, right? You need to really be starting way in advance and have a lot of options. You can't assume that the one person you think is the right fit will be the right fit. But I think you need to have a real plan way in advance, like a decade in advance, 5 years in advance. You need to have a pool of many candidates that you think could be potential successors. You need to give them opportunities to challenge themselves, take on a larger share of leadership, play a major role, not just spring it on somebody at the end, but you need a concrete plan. Usually a company of this size has a board of directors, right? They're going to want a plan.
Sure.
I think most corporations, this is the difference between big companies, Fortune 500 companies and a small mom and pop shop or, something that you own yourself that isn't a super large enterprise, the difference that they have. In a big company, you're going to have corporate leadership and corporate governance that says, we can't afford to have a gap in leadership. If the CEO gets hit by a bus, we got to have somebody else who can step in and run the show. We have to have a plan if things change suddenly. And that may be an interim CEO. It may be a full-time CEO in waiting that is right there, that's had a lot of training and exposure to the C-suite of that organization and is very familiar with the board. They may have their eye on potential candidates outside the organization that they think they could bring in if necessary. But you can't just wing it and decide, well, I think it's time for me to retire, and I'm either going to give it here to Billy or to Eric. And, you want me to wait while you go back to school? I guess I can do that. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think probably the most important thing for someone who currently holds a leadership position and who is looking to eventually replace themselves is to foster an environment of openness and honesty so that people can tell him truthfully, I would like to have your role someday, or I'm never going to be interested in that. I know it's not for me. I've got plans to retire early, or I've got plans to pursue some kind of different career, or maybe it's just I really love my job as it currently is, and you're never going to pry me out of this and put me in some higher management position. Whatever higher salary it comes with, it's not a good fit for my personality. I think those are difficult conversations for a lot of people to have, and it's made even more difficult if you're fostering an environment where people just don't feel like they can really tell you what their real 5-year plan is or what their real 10-year plan is. If it's just kind of like, I love it here, I would never leave, and whatever role you tell me to take, I'll do it. If that's the kind of environment you're creating where people feel like they just need to tell you that all the time, then you're going to end up with really crappy choices for a successor in the end.
I think that's true. What I find interesting is that I think most people work for big corporations, right? They employ a heck of a lot of people. In those businesses, typically they have some form of succession planning in place way lower than the executive level, right? People who are people managers. The manager of a people manager probably has an idea of who might fill that void if there's suddenly a vacancy. And the layer above that, and a director or a vice president or whatever level you're at or aspiring to, there is probably a succession plan that has at least been thought through, if not written down on paper, for how they might fill a vacancy in a key position. And it's not unreasonable to talk to your employer, to talk to your manager about where you fit in that, about what you want and where they see you. And if they don't see you as an immediate target to fill a role that you think you're right for, it's probably a good idea to ask why not, or what you need to do to get better so that you might be in a place to receive further consideration when the time comes, when the opportunity presents itself, because it doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah, I think the honesty has to go both ways, right? If you know that someone wants a higher position and you know as a leadership person that you're never going to give that to them, I think you got to be straight with them about that too. If you want honesty from them, you've got to give it back. So I think the honesty thing for sure goes both ways.
Okay, so they have 61,000 employees. What kind of duty does, I think it's Brian Madison, what kind of duty does he have to ensure their jobs exist after he's done?
Well, legally, he doesn't owe them anything, right? Anybody can start a company and then end a company willy-nilly whenever they like. There's never going to be a law that says you have to keep something in business. But morally, I think he's got a huge obligation to these people. He's created something out of scratch, and now he's got a huge number of folks who are dependent on him and his company that he's created for their livelihood. So for him to just shut it down completely and decide he wants to walk away just because his son won't take over or he can't find somebody else would be totally ridiculous and highly unrealistic. I mean, it's an extremely profitable enterprise that they've got going. Somebody is qualified to do this. Someone will step up and take over.
Yeah, even if he's not interested in giving the company to his son or somebody who works there, or to even keep the company as is, he could probably sell this to another hotel chain, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, there'd be somebody who'd be interested in taking on this and do it at a productive valuation that he'd be happy to have. Okay, so he's planning on giving the company to his kid. What are the ethics of that? Like, how do you feel about that choice? That's his sort of long-term plan and the only succession planning he really had in mind.
It seems like he hasn't had a very good talk with his son in quite some time, right? Because Billy doesn't seem to have either the capacity or the inclination to run a hotel chain. It seems wild that Mr. Madison Sr. just decided to let this go until his son was 27 and had done nothing but drink daiquiris all day since he graduated high school, until he finally had a real conversation about it and was like, hey, I was thinking you would do this someday. Do you think you're actually capable? What can we do to get you ready for it? I mean, they should have been talking about this for a really long time. And it seems like he never even asked him whether it was something he really wanted.
Yeah, I think it's kind of screwed up. Like, this isn't some business that got started 8 generations ago and has been passed down from family member to family member. This guy started this business with his own 2 hands. He and his wife, they started with this one hotel or one motel, and now it's this massive thing. Why on earth does he assume that his kid wants to run hotels? Like, why? Parents, what the hell are you doing if you have that as your approach? Just because something made you happy and was excitable and interesting for you and you were able to build a successful business from it, doesn't mean that your kid, 1, has the ability to do the same, or 2, any interest at all in doing that sort of thing. Like, why is that the field they need to go into? And even if it had been passed from generation to generation, I guess I could see that being a rationale for somebody thinking it would be normal for their kid to want it because that was their own personal experience. But my goodness, you just started this thing. Why is it some inheritable offer? The goal is to make this business and earn this money and have this ability to give the fruits of that business development work to your family, to protect them and protect yourselves and set you all up for a better life. But what kind of idiot thinks that the right approach is, oh, well, they're my kid, therefore they're the right person to take this on? I've never understood that. It's just too self-focused and not focused on your child. And that should be the whole point of something that you're going to, I don't know, give to them.
Yeah, parents of the world, which we are not, but to all the people out there who are parents, just don't put that kind of expectation on your kid, right? Let them find their own path and do their own thing. That's really what it boils down to. Okay, so let's move into our next clip where we hear a little bit more from Billy's dad, kind of bemoaning the situation that he finds himself in, and I think maybe also realizing that he's made some missteps along the way.
You were brought up with every advantage. I bought you everything. Toys, cars, vacations, clothes.
Actually, I stole this shirt from Frank.
Yeah, well, whatever. It's all my fault. I made a mistake. I'm trying to tell you that I'm retiring, and Eric, not you, is going to take over Madison Hotels.
I mean, I can do this if I set my mind to it. High school was a pain in the ass, but I graduated.
You graduated because I paid your teachers to give you decent grades. I've regretted it every day since. I thought at the time that if you could get good grades, you might get into a good college and straighten yourself out.
I don't believe that.
Well, what do you believe? That you were an honor student? I mean, how could I hand over my company to someone who couldn't even get through school on his own?
Burn.
It's pretty harsh. Would you
Yeah.
think you were an honor student?
Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about here is this comment he makes that he brought him up with every advantage. And then immediately after saying that, what he rattles off are things like clothes, cars, and vacations, which are not very nice things to have in life, right? Everybody appreciates getting to go on nice trips and having a comfortable place to live and nice clothes on your back. But when he talks about bringing him up with advantages, I don't think of those things as advantages. I think of those things as bonuses in life, right? They're very nice things to have. But when I think of advantages, I'm thinking of education. So putting your kid into the very best schools, providing your kid with extra tutoring, taking like SAT prep classes, things like that would to me be considered advantages. Or even something like living close to the school that your kid goes to so they don't have to spend a huge chunk of their day commuting back and forth, and they can have more time to study or relax and then, have more energy to put into their schoolwork. Those are the things that I think are the true building blocks of success. All of those other things are just like the accoutrements that are fun little pluses in life, but they're not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah, it should have been pretty obvious when Billy, there was a spelling bee he had, I think it was in first grade, where he won despite misspelling the word rock,
Yeah.
R-O-K, and he still seemed a bit confused about that at age 27.
Age 27.
Right. When Billy is struggling at that point in his academic career, if you want to give him every advantage, it's not that hard. I mean, it's not easy, but if you have the money, what's the real problem here? That Billy lacks the intellect and the ability to learn this stuff? I don't think so. It's that he just lacks the desire and the motivation. If you have all these resources, put it into that. Find a way to make learning fun. Get some tutors. Make the things that he's having to learn in school come to life, right? When you go learn history or something, if you want to go take a bunch of vacations, go somewhere where he can actually get a better, more real attachment and understanding to the things that he's studying there. There's that opportunity in virtually every subject. He could have a science tutor that can really help all the fascinating things that you learn in school that apparently weren't compelling to him. A tutor who can make that really be fascinating and interesting. I don't think it's that difficult to actually use your wealth to give your children real advantages. But if you think it's that they had the nicest shoes on campus, then what the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah, I think he just very much misunderstands what it means to have an advantage in life. I mean, obviously, Billy doesn't truly need to work, and that's one of the things that is presented to him as an option. It's like, look, you don't have to take over the company. You don't have to work at all. Just continue to sit around by the pool, drinking all day, and you can have that. That can be your life. And that is an advantage, obviously, to have that huge backstop in life. But if he's wanting his son to be happy and fulfilled and live a productive and meaningful life, then I feel like he just blew it completely.
So Brian Madison has paid off his teachers throughout his education to get him to pass each of the grades and get him through high school. Makes me think of some celebrities in our modern day who have paid off people to help their kids get every advantage in life, like those college admissions scandals things.
Yeah, so Felicity Huffman and I forget the actress's name, but Aunt Becky from Full House, right? Those two people were just skewered in the media for having paid pretty large sums of money to universities to get their kids in. I think one of them had a whole fake rowing career for their kids. They pretended to get them on the rowing team, which gave them that athletic scholarship and got them into the school, even though this kid had apparently never picked up an oar in his life. So there were just ridiculous things like that. And we shouldn't pretend that this kind of stuff doesn't happen, right? Even if it's all above board, parents make huge donations to universities, and that gives their kid a serious leg up. This guy probably could have done that. There's no doubt he could have gotten into college somewhere if he'd wanted to, right? But clearly Billy just didn't have the drive for that at all. So here's an interesting question. Do you think paying off his high school teachers was as bad as better than or worse than these real life college admission scandals?
I'm going to say it's not as bad as the college admission scandals, and here's why. The only person who really gets hurt by paying off his high school teachers is Billy himself. And I suppose if they don't report the income, the IRS.
Yeah.
When you are paying off those people under the table in college, that spot could have gone to somebody else, right? They have a finite enrollment cap. That's why it's hard to get into some of these schools. And you've taken away an opportunity that may have been incrementally better for some other student, somebody's dream school they couldn't get into, or that crew scholarship was no longer available to them because it went to your kid who doesn't deserve it whatsoever. Like, I think that's pretty damning. Yeah. So I focus the ethics mostly on the impact on other people. I don't really care about these rich people's children and their own effects. They've chosen that path themselves, or the parents chosen it for them. And that is the way it is.
Yeah, I don't think the kids are blameless in that. Clearly they knew something was going on and kind of shrugged it off and said, okay, go ahead, Mom. I'll pretend I'm on the crew team when I'm definitely not. But yeah, I tend to agree with you. I guess the worst thing as far as the high school teachers go would be bumping some other kid farther down the GPA curve because you're getting your kid fake good grades. But I imagine he wasn't paying for A's because I can't imagine anybody could have even pretended that Billy was an A student. So we're probably just talking about like passing grades here. So he's realistically likely not kicking anybody too far down the GPA curve.
Yeah, I don't think someone's class rank suffered in a way that was going to hurt their own academic opportunities.
Okay, let's move on to our next clip, which is by far and away my favorite. I had completely forgotten that this was in the movie, but it is so funny. It is so spot on. And it's like this rare moment of insight and just like wisdom that we get from this otherwise insane character. And it comes from his first grade class. This is the very first class that he's taking as a brand new student at the ripe age of 27. And he is being read a story by his first grade teacher, Miss Lippy, called The Happy Puppy. And it's about a little boy who loses his dog. And this is Billy Madison's reaction at the end of the story.
Whoa, 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 Miss Lippy. The part of the story I don't like is that the little boy gave up looking for Happy after an hour. He didn't put posters up or anything. He just sat on the porch like a goon and waited. That little boy's got to think, you got a pet. You got a responsibility. If your dog is lost, you don't look for an hour and then call it quits. You get your ass out there and you find that fucking dog.
I just love it so much. So we are dog owners. We have been pretty much our whole adult lives. And currently we have a dog named Miles who is just the best thing on planet Earth. Kind of my obsession in life. And I completely agree with Billy here. His assessment is just completely inarguable. It's perfect. Yeah, you lose your dog. You do not just give it some sort of half-assed effort and be like, yeah, whatever, maybe he'll show up, maybe he won't. No, like, as he says, you get your ass out there and you find that fucking dog.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's disappointing that little boy didn't put the right effort in. It's shameful. I don't know what the punishment should be. Public flogging, something more than that. I don't know, but it's pretty pathetic. If you're gonna take on the responsibility of owning a pet, it comes with a lot of work.
It also comes with a lot of costs. So let's talk about that a little bit. According to the internet, the average cost of owning a dog over the course of its lifespan is like $15,000 to $16,000.
Wow, that's more than I would have guessed.
Yeah, that's over an average of a 13-year lifespan. So that comes down to about $1,200 a year.
Is that primarily, that's food, that's an annual vet checkup and some vaccines?
Yeah, and just other sort of general supplies you need for your dog, like replacing the collar every so often, leash, bed, stuff like that. But yeah, the primary thing is going to be food and vet care. Also boarding costs. If you take any vacations, that's a huge thing to factor in. But those are the biggies that you're going to be looking at. So it is not an inexpensive endeavor. It's something that you should take on very, very seriously. And they really do become part of your family. That love that you feel for a pet is just special and unique, and you should treat it as the very precious thing that it is.
So pets are like people. They can get sick. They can have an injury that requires medical care. A shocking number of Americans live, paycheck to paycheck and are basically in a position of major financial strife if they have a $500 financial hiccup, right?
Yeah.
Should they get a pet? Like, if it costs this much and you have the responsibility to take care of this animal, like, how much money do you need to be able to withstand in a sudden instance for it to be reasonable for you to have a pet? I don't want to be the pet police or anything, but I mean,
No,
for you not to be making a really difficult choice about whether or not you're going to give the pet the care it needs, put it up for adoption, do something much more drastic.
Yeah, no, it's an important question to ask. I think every person has to answer that individually for themselves, right? What is the sum of money that I would feel comfortable spending to save the dog's life, to give the dog, much better quality of life if they face some serious health issue? And what is the sum that I need to keep in reserve in case something like that happens? I would think at least $500 to $1,000 is a good benchmark to use, but it's a discretionary thing. There's no magic answer. One thing I really wanted to talk about is pet insurance. So
like if they die, you get money?
Correct. Yeah.
Really?
No. I mean, look, you can buy insurance for just about anything on planet Earth, but probably not pet life insurance. That's not what I was referring to. No, I'm definitely referring to
a driver's policy?
Yeah. Yeah, driver's. I mean, a dog with his little paws on the wheel is pretty cute, you gotta admit. Anyway, I'm definitely talking about pet health insurance. So there are pet health insurance policies that you can buy. In general, you're going to be looking at somewhere in the range of like $35 to $60 per month for a pet medical policy. What it will cover will vary widely depending on which insurance company you're using, what the pre-existing conditions are of your dog, what breed the dog is, because different breeds have wildly different life expectancies and different health conditions that are common for them. But most of them are not going to cover like general preventive care. They're for things like serious accidents or sometimes for serious illnesses like cancer. Although I think it's fairly common for them to carve cancer out. Just make sure you read your policy very, very carefully and understand exactly what it is you're buying, because $35 to $60 a month, that's a lot of money to spend every year, right? You're spending, if it's on the high end, 60 times 12 is $720 a year. That is a lot of money. By the time the dog is 10 years old, which is around the time that most dogs tend to start developing serious medical problems, you will have spent $7,200 on the medical insurance. Most of these policies are also going to come with a pretty sizable deductible, usually in the range of like $500. So the amount you are saving yourself over the first 10 years of a dog's life may not be that significant. If you just put that money into a savings account for 10 years, by the time the dog is likely to develop health conditions, you will have a really nice sum of money sitting there ready to deploy if the dog develops serious health conditions, right? Which is not a guarantee. Some dogs die peacefully in their sleep at age 15. Some dogs have very sudden health conditions that come on out of nowhere and take their life in a matter of days or weeks, no matter what you do. So it is probably far more prudent in the vast majority of cases to just save that money as opposed to giving it over to an insurance company.
I think you're right. I mean, that it has a smoothing effect on your expenses so that your out-of-pocket maximum is managed substantially. But yeah, just pay yourself. To close this whole pet section, I guess I want to clarify that I thought we were talking about pets in general here, Carla seems to be talking about dogs only. So for all you cat lovers out there, if you have an iguana, if you have what was the thing from Kindergarten Cop?
A hamster? I don't know.
No, it was a ferret.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. If you have a snake, Carla doesn't love you. Only if you have dogs.
Yeah, don't be my friend if you have a pet snake. I'm not gonna be happy about that. I am focusing largely on dogs. We live in Colorado, which is a very dog-friendly state. And also, like most people who are pet owners have dogs. Dogs are a more common pet than cats. However, I will say these numbers are not wildly off for cats. Everything's just going to be a little bit cheaper because they're smaller. Okay, one last thing on the pet insurance front. I did see that the average cost for cancer treatment for dogs, I'm still on dogs here, is $4,200. So if you have been saving your $60 a month, at the end of 10 years, you're going to have $7,200, which will more than cover the cost of what is the most expensive thing for most dogs, which is cancer treatment. So pet insurance, we're looking at you. We see you. We don't like you. Okay, now we can move on.
Okay, so our final clip of the show is, spoiler alert, Billy has finished his 12 grades of school and gone through the whole program, and he finishes, and he has a big party to celebrate and share his accomplishment with his family and friends.
Well, what can I say? I graduated. It's over. I did it. I know most of you are saying, hey, any idiot could do that. Well, it was tough for me, so back off! Sorry about that.
Yahoo, Billy! Billy's number one! Yahoo!
That's nice, buddy. Yahoo! Yahoo for school! Yahoo for me! Anyways, this hotel stuff really isn't for me. So I decided to step down as chairman of Madison Hotels and give the company to Carl. I'm gonna go to college. I'm gonna be a teacher.
So Carla, despite giving the hotel to Carl in a very responsible move and not trying to take it on himself when he has understood that it's not what he's into, I still think Billy is a damn immature fool.
Yeah.
Right? Like, in his speech, he has an outburst about, like, so back off or whatever, right? Like, what? Like, get it together. His academic decathlon thing that they do at the end, where it's him versus Eric, and he gives this rambling speech about the Industrial Revolution, except it's really about the happy puppy.
Yeah.
At the end, the principal says, "We're all now dumber for having heard that," or something along those lines.
That is one of the best lines of the movie, I think.
Yeah. Funny note, I think this was something that one of the people in the Saturday Night Live writer's room used to say to Chris Farley after some of his terrible sketch pitches that he threw out there.
Chris Farley was a bright spot in this movie, although I didn't love his character that much. I just love Chris Farley as an actor and comedian.
Yeah. Well, anyway, like, we're all now dumber for hearing his stupid Industrial Revolution speech thing. Like, he's still a damn idiot. I'm not impressed.
Yeah. Well, maybe he will grow and mature and learn in college, but I don't have super high hopes for him, and I would be pretty nervous as a parent in that community if I thought that Billy Madison was going to be teaching my kids someday.
Well, he doesn't have a real diploma, or at least one. I guess his dad bought him one, but like, would he be able to get admitted to college with what he just completed now?
Yeah, I can't imagine that he would. I mean, you could certainly take the GED, but yeah, the first go round, his dad paid off his teachers, so that degree is fake. And the second go round, he completed 12 years of schooling in 6 months, so that's clearly fake. It was just done for purposes of like winning this bet with his dad. So yeah, he does not have a real high school diploma. He's going to have to take the GED if he wants to get admitted to college.
Yeah, I don't like his odds of passing that, first of all, but maybe he could get through it without too much difficulty. I don't know. But yeah, that's a hurdle that I'm not sure he's thought about. Okay, the other thing, he wants to be a teacher. I still don't think he's into school. I don't think he likes learning. Like, let's go through some of the things he did in that academic decathlon. There was some math problem that they had them both try to solve, and Eric is feverishly working away and comes up with an answer that I think was the right one. I don't know. Billy spends like 2 seconds looking at it, instead writes something mean about Eric on the chalkboard, like he pees his pants or something. Not somebody that I want being a math teacher for my kid. There's a chemistry experiment thing where Eric pulls out some sort of concoction, like the result of some sort of experiment process. I don't know what it's supposed to represent. Who knows? But Billy has taken off one of his shoes. He puts it in this pot with a cloud of smoke and boiling, bubbling, whatever, and then he pulls it out, and everyone is amazed. Billy made a shoe. What the hell? Like, there's just lunacy. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's clearly not into school. That's not his jam. Why would you want to go be a teacher if that's not what you're all about? Like, don't you want your teachers to be filled with a love of learning and a passion for exploring new things that are hard and challenging, and that can infect that passion upon new, impressionable young minds every day?
Yeah, that's what I would like out of teachers. I think our society would be better if every teacher fit that description. And I think a heck of a lot of teachers
Sure,
do, right?
yeah.
But Billy Madison, whew, man, I don't know if he's going to be the world's best educator. So yeah, I'm with you 100%. He doesn't seem to have any affection for the school setting, right? He doesn't seem to have any excitement about like digging in and learning something new. So he's going to be fine in life financially no matter what, right? He's got his dad's backing behind him. So he just should maybe do something that's a little bit less critical to the success of society besides being a teacher, because I don't think he's going to be great at that. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we're not giving him enough chance to grow and mature. Although he's already 27, so I don't know.
I mean, do you think college is going to be good for him?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
He'd be entering as a non-traditional student, right? A little bit older than the average student who's in college. So maybe his heavy partying days are done, and he'd be more likely to be focused on, gaining an education rather than gaining a bunch of frat party friends.
That's fair. I think in the end, we should just be grateful that he's a fictional character and that we don't have to worry about him teaching any real students back here on planet Earth. So,
I think you're right.
yeah. If you haven't seen Billy Madison in a while, stay that way. I would not recommend going back and giving it a rewatch because it will let you down.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like everything has it. This must be the worst rated show we've done an episode on.
Yeah, and it feels like it. It was really, really terrible. But I hope you learned a couple things. Most importantly,
Your prime numbers.
yes, 2 is a prime number. And please, please think very carefully before you go out and buy pet insurance, because a lot of times it's just going to bleed you dry and you'd be way better off saving that money.
And next time you own a hotel chain that employs 61,000 people, don't force it on your kid.
Yeah, be nice parents. Give your kids a chance to find their own path in life.
All right. Well, we appreciate you listening to us today, and we'll catch you next time. Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Take care.